Hey everyone, David Fox from Modular DM here, and today we're continuing our topic from last session, how we as DMs can help prevent and fix the invisible gap that may form over time between a player and their character in-game. This gap we describe is the experience when a player sits down to play a character they love, but one day discovers them to be less fulfilling and enjoyable than they had hoped, almost as if a distance has formed between them and their character. And because the player has seemingly begun to lose their avatar in the world, sessions become less fun and their engagement begins to drift away. But in today's session, we're going to focus on one more factor behind why this player-character gap starts to form, and two tools you as a DM can use collaboratively with your players to prevent these gaps from ever forming. Over the past 10 years, the expectations of playing in a TTRPG like D&D had a bit of a shift. Most players now expect there to be a heavier narrative element and plenty of opportunities to explore their characters, which means the players in your group created characters because there was a specific type of experience they wanted to have. They look forward to seeing how their character handles wild and crazy situations so they can see how they come out the other end. How do their feelings, goals, and relationships change over time? Many of us crave those moments where we have to take a moment of self-introspection and ask, how does that change things? These are the expectations many of us have when playing D&D now. And therein lies one of the problems for today that can cause a player-character gap, a lack of character development opportunities. As a DM, we're often the ones in charge of providing the character development opportunities. But there's generally 3 to 5 players in a group, and it can be very challenging for us DMs to provide enough character development opportunities for everyone to feel satisfied. Now, with more experienced players, this becomes less of a problem because they start to learn they can create their own moments. But not everyone is a skilled role player. Yet, they have the same expectations. So, what do? Well, we teach our players to think like skilled role players. And one great way of doing that is prompting our players to give their thoughts in big moments. Let me give you an example. In my previous campaign, one of my players was an incredibly righteous paladin, always looking to serve others. Incredibly lawful good. One day, though, the party found themselves in the middle of a city where a large-scale war was beginning. And they found themselves having to make a choice. Fight now, when they're on the back foot and may likely die, or run away to fight another day, but leaving tens of thousands of civilians trapped inside the city. And my players, they chose to run. Now, as a DM, I understand the mentality of my players' characters, and this was directly against what this paladin stood for, which gives a wonderful opportunity to turn this moment into a character development opportunity by prompting my player and asking, your character, she's running away. She'd never do that, but the situation forced her hand. What's going on in her mind right now? And what does everyone see on her face as you run? Notice how this prompt does 2 things. It encourages and it gives permission for my player to have a moment of character introspection. But by voicing it aloud, everyone else at the table now has an understanding of that character in this moment, making it far easier for them to have a meaningful discussion, character development, with this character down the road. Now, one quick thing about this tool. If you have someone in your group that's a bit shy, even with the prompt, they may find it difficult to find the words so suddenly. It can feel intimidating. But one thing I have found to be very helpful in creating a more welcoming atmosphere in these moments is, instead of asking one player to give their thoughts on a situation, I'll ask the entire table to give their thoughts. When it finally comes to the turn of that more shy player, since other people have already gone, it's a lot easier to jump in because others have already done so, and they've seen examples of how other players answered the question. Now, if you're paying attention, you'll notice I made one huge assumption: that you understand what each of your players want to achieve through their characters. If you don't understand this, how can you ever hope to provide great character building opportunities? So here's your next tool: setting up a regular cadence to have one-on-one discussions with each of your players, online or offline, your choice. Just make sure it's only the two of you, because they will tell you so much more in a private setting than in a group. And to make the most of these meetings, you must ask these 3 questions we'll run through one by one. Question 1, what's your character's goal right now? What's one thing you want more than anything else? The reason this question is so important is because your players and their characters evolve over time. So you may have known the answer to this question at the start of the campaign, but 20 sessions in, it's going to be a different answer. And if you haven't asked since, you and your player are going to have a mismatch of expectations for their character. Question 2, what obstacles do you face in accomplishing your goal? As a DM, I want to know what's holding you back from accomplishing the goals you set out to do. If you're running into headwinds because no one else in the group feels like they want to do your task, or maybe you haven't found the opportunity to go to the complete opposite end of the continent to accomplish something your character or you just as a player thinks would be a lot of fun. Just having your players voice problems aloud enables you as a DM to work together with them to make it happen. Or if it doesn't seem like the campaign will allow them to fulfill that goal, I can tell them that and work with them to come up with another goal that we can accomplish in this campaign. It's all about communication. Question 3, 20 sessions go by. What happened that made them fulfilling? The reason I love this question is while it's similar to the other two, it focuses on the player instead of their character, essentially giving your players an opportunity to tell you things they'd like to do more of in your campaign. They may say things like, I want to delve into a dungeon, or I'd like to have some deeper, more personal one-on-one moments with a specific character. Or, hey, I want to fight that monster we ran away from 5 sessions ago. It's been on my mind ever since. Now, you may have to do a bit of digging to get these kinds of answers, but it's incredibly worth it. Because equipped with these answers and the answers from the 2 questions before, you're going to be able to easily develop character building moments, prevent gaps from forming between a player and their character, because during these meetings, you also get the opportunity to learn if a player is feeling that way at all. And lastly, you'll have a way easier time building a campaign all of your players love. So that about wraps the session up, everyone. And I sincerely hope you'll find these 2 tools to be worth their weight in gold. Down in the session notes down below, I'd love to hear what other questions you've asked your players that you found to be incredibly helpful, and some of the things that you learned that you never would have unless you sat down and talked with them. And don't miss next session, where we'll discuss a type of player known as the Illuminator that every D&D group needs, and what to do if your group doesn't have one. See you there.